Going on to topic 2, and again, hopefully you watched the lesson, because we're not really teaching, we're just practicing examples here. So they want us to graph these, and I will do that, and then we will compare what we see. Now, as we start to look at these equations, notice this is the equation, and this is the equation. And if you recall in our lecture, we said these equations are in the form of y equals mx plus b. Well, in this first equation, there is no b or term after the x, but here there is. Here there isn't. Here there is. So when we have solved a standard form equation, and I'm reviewing that because we saw some of these in the previous section, ax plus by equals c. We said this was standard form of the linear equation in two variables. The variables were x and y. If we solve for the letter y, we get an equation that's in this form. This is slope-intercept form. Now, in slope-intercept form, we notice that this letter m, that is the numerical coefficient of x, the number that precedes the x, is actually the slope of these equations. And this letter b right here, this is called the y-intercept. It will be where the graph goes through the y-axis. So if there is no b, as we see in this first one, and this one down here, it's going to go through the origin, right there, and right there. Now, otherwise, it's going to go through wherever this number is. This is a 2. So this one here is going through the y-axis at 2. It's called the y-intercept. And this is -4. And where this line is going through the y-axis, it's the y-intercept. Now notice this one didn't have one. Its b is in a sense 0. There isn't any. So it's going through the origin. Now let's take a moment to look at the slope a little bit. Now as we look at the slope, we see the slope is a -3/4. And slope, we'll find, actually it's in our next lesson, but depending where you are, is a ratio of y units over x units. Or we sometimes say rise over run. So that's what slope is. So if I go to my y-intercept, which here is 0, and this is negative slope because of that negative, I'm going to do my run of 4 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, and my rise of 3 units, and get my second point of the graph. And that's what I'm going to do to graph this. And I'm doing the same thing here. Over 4 up 3. Now, whenever I have negative slope, and we're doing a little review here as well, the line will start high, and then as I go through the graph, it'll go down. This is negative slope. Now the difference here is I have positive slope. I'm going to start again at 0. The y-intercept, there isn't any, it's 0. And I'm going to go over 4, up 3, because it's positive. My run is positive, my rise is positive. That gives me positive slope. Now that I have my negative 4, I know my y-intercept is there. I'm going to go over 4, up 3. And if something has the same slope, but different y-intercepts, you'll see the lines are parallel, as we see in examples 1 and 2. So I spent a lot of time on this, but there's lots of stuff to remember, and some items we're going to repeat in a later lesson. Now, we had a few other equations on the board for our other lesson. We had, for instance, if for number 5 here, we had the equation that actually we called equation 5, which was y equals b. And for this one, we had equation 6. They're matching up. X equals a. And we had said that often the coordinates, they're written usually xy, but sometimes they're written a comma b. And b we just talked about in the previous slide. By the way, we're skipping 3 and 4 because they're just the same. And b, we said, was the y-intercept. So when we say y is 3, we just go to where 3 is and just keep putting 3's. And what do we get then? Well, we get a line that's horizontal that goes through the y-intercept. And remember, all of these lines have arrows at the end, indicating they go on forever this way and on forever that way. This is just a piece of it, that this is the special graph, y equals b, y equals the y-intercept 3, and it's a horizontal line. Now, for our equation x equals negative 4, its general form is x equals a. This is the general form of the equation that is a vertical line going through a, and here a is negative 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can put a point anywhere else. As you do this in Math Lab, we're going to get a line over here. And there is your graph. Now, while we're here, I might mention other things we've talked about. We said m is slope. Now, the slope of any horizontal line is 0. And the slope of any vertical line, we say, is undefined. Because if you do the slope formula that we're going to do later, it says slope will equal like 3 over 0. Well, any number that is over 0 is undefined. And this, when we do it, it would come out something like 0 over 4. And any number in which our numerator is 0 and our denominator is not a 0, the slope of that is 0. So, a couple of pointers, and we'll be reviewing. Now, when we go to graph something like this, and it's in standard form, a good technique is to make a special T-chart that I will call the X and Y intercept T-chart. And we'll do it for this one too. And we did that in our lesson. That's why it's important to watch that. And you get some repetition. So if X is 0, this is a 0 here, Y is a -4. Now if Y is 0, X is a -4. And let's do this one too. Now if X is 0, we did this one earlier, Y will be a -8. We have to switch the signs. A negative Y is a +8, so a positive Y is a -8. And then if Y is 0, X is 8. So we now have 2 points. And interestingly, if we write this point, it's written 0, B. And this one is written A, 0. Because this is the general form for the Y-intercept. And this is the general form for the X-intercept. So here we have 0, -4. So 0, -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A dot right there. That's your Y-intercept. It's where the line's going to cross the Y-axis. And this is a -4, 0, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. Now we get our line. And we extend it this way too. I didn't do too well on that, but you got the idea. There is the graph of this equation. And for this one, I don't think we're going to have enough points, but we can always add some. So this is 0, -8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh yeah, we do. Right there. And this is going to be a +8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right there. And we get our line. And there's our graph. And again, the use of this special T-chart when it's in standard form. And probably a good idea would be to review standard form. Let's see if I get my pen working here. Standard form is AX plus BY equals C. And again, our A is 1, our B is 1. And again, we don't write them. And then this is our constant. Standard form, AX plus BY equals C. Now, if we solve this for Y, then we would have it in slope-intercept form. We'll be doing that also. Okay, this is in standard form, so we're going to plot the X and Y intercept. So if this is 0, X is 0, this is going to be 3. And if this is 0, a negative X is 6, so a positive X is a -6. So let's graph this one. 0, 3, 1, 2, 3, right there. And then -6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And my line is right there. Sort of. And arrows at the end of the line. Now, notice this one is in standard form. So we're going to use that special technique of plotting the 5 is my Y-intercept. Slope-intercept form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We put a dot right there. Now our slope is a -2 over 1. So from there, I'm going to go over 1 up 2. And there's my graph. And for this one, we said there is no Y-intercept up here. That's going to be 0. sort of in slope-intercept form. So we put a dot at 0. Our slope is 6 over 1. We're working a little bit ahead of what we're doing here, but hopefully this will be a nice, easy way to graph. Our run is 1, positive, so we go over 1. Then we're going to go up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right there. Get a line. And there's our graph. Now, again, the other way of doing this that we mentioned in the first topic is when you make your T-chart, if it's in slope-intercept form, you're going to put like a -1, a 0, and a +1. You're going to get 3 points. You only need 2 to graph, but 3 helps ensure. And notice we always get 0. So if this is 0, this will be 5, which is our y-intercept. So that's where we started. And then we just plotted these other 2. That would be, I didn't do that one, but this is the graph. Okay. All right, here are some more. Now, instead of using slope-intercept to graph this one, I made a chart. Again, it's sort of a backup. So we know it's going to go through the origin. And we have 2 and a -4. So 1, 2, and then down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, notice if we did it the other way, a -2 over 1, we're going to go over 1, up 2, and it's in the same line. That's just a little one that we will be featuring a little later on, and we're just showing it to you right now. And for this one, we got our 2 points using that special T-chart if it's in standard form. This is a very good one. So 0, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I know 8 is right over there. So this is my line right there. Okay, these are in slope-intercept. So I'm going to put a dot on my y-intercept, which is -2, right there. I'm now going to plot my slope of 2/3. I'm going to do my run of 3 first. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go up 2. And that'll be my line. And then here it's -2. Right there. And my slope is 3 over 1, positive again. So I'm going to go over 1 and then up 3. And there is my line. Oh, didn't want to put that in there yet. Now, this one's a little tricky. Notice it's a -1/2 y equals x. So if I want to solve that for y, I have to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, a -2 over 1, a -2 over 1. Okay? So here this all cancels out. I get a +1 here, which is y, and this becomes a -2x. There is no y-intercept, so for this one, I'm going to put a dot at 0, and my slope is -2 over 1. So I have to go to the left now, 1 and then up 2. So now those are my lines. So there's the first graph. Not too straight, but close. And then there's this one. And there's this one here, sort of. Doing this quickly because we are on to almost 20 minutes, but lots of stuff going on here. And this one, if it's a standard form, put your special T-chart. If x is 0, y will be a -4. If y is 0, x is going to be 2. So 0, 4, 2, 0, my x-intercept there, my y-intercept there, there's my line. Okay, to wind this up here, I had to do all this page over again because I hit the wrong button. Okay, here we go. Now notice, this is not in slope-intercept. So I have to solve for y here. And when I solve for y, I use the reciprocal of this coefficient and then multiply that. So all this canceled out, gave me my positive y. There is no b, so b is 0. So I put my dotted 0, my run, since it's negative, I go 3 to the left, 4 up. And for this one, my y-intercept is 2. I put a dot on 2. My slope is 1, so 1 over 1. So I go 1 over, 1 up, and I did a couple of them. So I can get lots of them if I want. And all along that line. And then here I'm using my famous X and Y-intercept T-chart. I think we've done this one before. And that'll wrap this up. Now remember, you can always use the simple T-chart that we mentioned in section 1, where you're going to put points there, a -1, a 0, and a 1. Or if there was a fraction, you would put multiples of it. But this is a system as we move on, and you may have already done some of the other lessons, so we can jump right into this shortcut. And good luck to you.